Hello, join us for another episode of Loose Links for Tuesday night fun as we get loose with the hot topics of news that's maybe in your area this week. All that on tonight's show. Hello, keeping me entertained and you entertained for the next hour with a smile on your face and hot discussion topic is Rachel Penny.
Hiya.
Sue Humphrey.
Evening, everybody.
And Jason Lambert.
Good evening, all.
As we talk about this week, a little boy that dropped his teddy bear into a local lake but was reunited with it a couple of weeks later. But it got us thinking, as adults, can we cope without modern technology and even our mobile phones? Also, we talk about drink driving on the increase. Even though we're over Christmas and New Year, it's still increasing. And do you think if you caught drink driving once, you should be banned for life? And we finish on an episode of Dragon's Den. Believe me, I've got 3 dragons here ready to start talking, but we discuss modern weight and if it should really be shining a light on it. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? All that and a lot more on this week's Loose Links. Good evening, dragons.
Hello.
Hello.
How are we all, Rachel? You are our star panelist. You have to be literally the star of the show because Rachel is our step-in nearly all the time. Rachel, you love it that much.
Yeah, I'm sick of my own voice and face, so I don't know what everybody else will be thinking out there. I really don't. Default.
I can see that you've come in the colour of your mood, and that's black. So we're looking.
Don't start insulting me. It's our early days yet.
Excuse me, Rachel. How can you say that when you said to me last week on the show? I can't be that bad.
Excuse me. Don't bring it up again, please.
Let's start with last week's polls. There was no results on one poll, so we've only got 2 poll results this week, which are, if we look into it, first poll was, do you believe that the wearing of the face mask has gone because Boris had no choice because of his actions? 75% of you said yes, 25% of you said no. And the second poll, do you think it's time for Boris to step down and somebody else to step up? 63% of you said yes. 37% of you said no. So there was a bit of a mixed poll there, really. I was expecting it to be quite high. But let's do what we all do best and start off with our first subject. A poor little boy from Cardiff accidentally dropped his bear into the Park Lake during a visit with his family. Teddy goes everywhere with Arthur. Breaks my heart a little bit. Teddy goes everywhere with Arthur, and you can imagine the little lad was absolutely distraught, said Arthur's grandmother. The teddy bear was a gift from Arthur's 90-year-old great-grandfather. His grandmother emailed Cardiff Council Park Department with a photo of the teddy bear floating on the lake, and it was reunited with the little boy a week later. But that got me thinking about losing things as an adult. Let's go through to you first, Sue Humphrey. Can you cope if you lose your mobile phone?
I'm finding it, I'm increasingly less able to cope without my mobile phone, I have to say. Yeah, it's just everything's twice as hard without your phone.
But do you get distraught if you can't find it? Do you
Well,
feel
no,
yourself
no.
getting in a bit of a mess if you can't find your mobile?
No, I don't get distraught. I get cross and frustrated, and because everything's on your phone, isn't it? It's not just your phone numbers. You know, it's your emails and your WhatsApp and your contact addresses and everything, really. So I get cross and I get frustrated, but I don't. It's not the end of the world. There are far worse things could happen. I think it's just annoying, really.
I think if you lose your mobile phone these days, you can't just find somebody's number these days, can you?
No.
If you haven't got a backup. Before, you had your phone book or direct inquiries, but now you rely on, you do stuff like...
I forgot all about the phone book. And did you know the phone book didn't even enter my mind? I remember the phone. Was it Yellow Pages? It was called.
Well, there is Pages.
There is still Yellow Pages.
Yeah.
But when do you ever see somebody with a Yellow Page book in the house anymore?
People used to use it to stand on.
Using
Using
what?
To reach the corners. To clean. They used to stand on it.
But Jason, are you distraught if you can't find your mobile phone? Is it something really important in your life? Do you feel like it's stuck to your hip 24/7?
No, not like some other people I could mention. If I lose mine, I can generally, if I'm at home, I tend to bring it on my house phone to find out where I put it, because I sometimes just can't find it. So
but what about that annoying thing when it's on silent?
Oh, no, it's only ever on silent when I'm asleep.
Oh, see, you're very good. I don't even have it on silent when I have lost my mobile phone once, and it was with Rachel Penny. I had gone round because I was very lucky in the fact that if Mum's watching, hi Mum bought me a bike for Christmas, so I got a new bike. But with work commitments, I end up travelling all over. I desperately needed a bike, so I borrowed Rachel Penny's bike. No, Rachel Penny's brother's bike, but we couldn't get it in the car, so the only way to get it home was to bike all the way home. Well, I got home and Sue, I completely disagree with you. I was distraught. And I fell off the bike. Yeah, honestly, if I didn't have her to begin with, I would have lost it that night, because I was literally on Messenger on the computer nearly crying to Rachel going, I can't find my mobile phone. And I think it's because, as you say now, everything's on it. So my work rota's on it, my email, my Facebook, my telephone numbers. I don't have. Some people are really good at writing telephone numbers down and putting it in a drawer just in case. I didn't have any of that. And all I kept, and I just thanked the Lord that I never put it on silent. And I just rang and rang and rang it. And this little old Cyril, hi Cyril, if you're watching, picked up the phone and said, hello. I was like, that's my phone. And Rachel had to get her brother out of bed to go and pick it up from the pub. So
I'm ashamed to admit I don't even know my son and daughter's phone numbers.
Oh, Sue.
I mean, I don't know what they are. I mean, they have moved lots, but I don't. I can't tell you what they are. I can remember what my grand's phone number was.
I can't tell you what my husband's phone number is.
Oh, Jason, that's really bad.
Do you know what my phone number is, Nick?
Yeah, it's 079. No, I don't. So it's all. I don't. For some reason, I'm not very good at remembering numbers at all. Telephone numbers. Like, I'm amazed that I can remember my own, and I do know my own now off by heart. If somebody says what's your mobile number, I can give it.
Wish you'd lose mine.
Pardon?
I wish you'd lose mine.
And that's the end of the show. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week. But I also remember, and I don't know why, I don't know if it's because I've rung it a lot, but I know my best mate's number off by heart. I know it because he's my next of kin, and it's very, very confusing, but he's my next of kin and everything. And I don't know if it's because I've wrote down his number lots of times and now it's just glued into my head. But Rachel, do you believe that in the modern age of 2022, I seem to say that a lot on the show, 2022, do you believe in the modern age of 2022 that we should have technology-free days? Do you think technology is getting too big and for human beings to back off it a little bit and not be so attached to technology nowadays?
Well, I think I've lost my phone a couple of times, or I've left my house without it and not realised until, and I couldn't go back for it. But you do feel slightly liberated that you're away from it and you're not tied to it, and nobody can get you either. Nobody can contact you. But all that time in your mind, you think to yourself, wonder if somebody needs me, wonder if somebody wants me. But you do rely on it. You've got everything in there. You've got your life is in there, your banking. And also for the lazy ones of us, if anybody asks a question, oh, hang on, I'll Google it, just talking to your phone or ask Siri, but the thing is, doing something like that, it's known that you don't take in the information. If you don't search for it properly and read it, you don't take it in. So it gets you then onto a perpetual treadmill, really, of knowledge, always finding it quickly and instantly, but not taking anything in. And but I do feel that we do rely on them too much. And also technology, like, you see, I've got a problem with, not really a problem with sleeping, but I wake up after 4 hours because of a dicky back. So if I
wonder what you were going to say then.
Dodgy skeletal bits and bobs, yes. Anyway, yes, I know what you were thinking, Nick. But the thing is, you sit up in bed, go downstairs, make a cup of tea, come back to bed. Oh, I'll just go on TikTok. Oh, I'll just go on Facebook, see who's there. And my friend who lives in Florida, she might be up, so I'll talk to her. Before you know it, you've lost yourself on another 2 or 3 hours and you haven't gone to sleep. So technology has a destructive and ugly side to it as well. But it depends how you immerse yourself into it, really. It's your own fault. We just get further and further into it.
Can I make you share an embarrassing story, Rachel?
Oh, does it involve me?
Yeah. Can you tell us what you did that night when you thought you sent your friend a video and you ended up doing stuff on camera? Can you remember that night that you told me about? You know, that night where you were going to video call somebody, that your friend that lived miles away in another country, and you didn't end up, but you ended up doing a video, but the next morning you were just thankful that you didn't send that video. Can you remember what I'm talking about?
Not really.
Can you not?
No, not really.
You know where you picked your nose and you yes,
I do know that. Yes. Oh, that's a funny one. Yes.
Tell us.
Well, it was a bit fuzzy, but I fall asleep quite easily, and I stood up in the kitchen. I had my phone against the worktop, and I thought to myself, right, I'll send my friend a message, and she wasn't in. She wasn't available, so I thought, well, I haven't got time. I'll have to go to bed. So what I'll do, I'll record a message for her. And anyway, the next thing I knew I'd fallen asleep, but I had got it on record. And I woke up the next morning and looked at my phone, and I thought, oh, what did I send there? And I looked at it, and I'd recorded this message, but I'd fallen asleep, and I woke up with one eye like that, looking at the screen. But I was still asleep, and I stood up, and I took my jumper off, and then I took my vest off. I've got kind of like a cami top on, and oh my goodness, I'm divulging. I hope nobody's going to watch this week. And then I picked my nose, itched it actually. I went like this a bit. I looked to the side to see if my stomach was held in. I looked to the other side and I went, oh. I switched the phone off and I went to bed, and I'd recorded all that. But luckily,
My goodness, you haven't sent it.
Panicking that I'd sent it. I thought, oh my gosh.
But
And,
do you think this is one for one of you to jump on it really? Do you think technology is evolving too much? So we can talk about stuff, and I find this a lot because obviously my phone's next to me when we do Loose Link. So when I talk about different news throughout Lincolnshire, I find that I go on social media platforms, and whatever I've been talking about to friends or to family or to people next to me, I'm thinking, let me give an example. I'm thinking of buying an Alexa, but I'm thinking, I don't know which Alexa, I don't know, let's go for the Echo or the Alexa. I can guarantee the next morning on my social media, there's adverts of Alexas and of Echoes and how much they are and discount here. But we deliberately now are putting these technology into our homes, so we are constantly, even though that we don't think we are constantly listened to. So by the Alexa device, the Alexa is to pick up by voice control. So when we say stuff, do you think it's just getting a bit too much and it's a bit invasive in our lives, technology nowadays?
I hope it doesn't listen to everything I say.
But do you think it's too much, Jason?
Otherwise, I'd get some strange adverts if it listens to everything.
Well, I really don't want to know. I really don't want to know. But do you think that we need to back down on technology a little bit more? Because I can see, like, in 10, 20 years of the whole house being run by technology some sort of way. Is it a scary feeling or an excited feeling?
I don't buy into a lot of the technology. I do have an Alexa, and I've got my phone. But apart from the laptop, talking now via Zoom, and scoring music for my choir or orchestral music, I don't really use the laptop that much at all. I'm one of these people who like to watch quiz shows. So taking information in, I watch an awful lot of quiz shows and take information in that way rather than asking my phone. But I'm not really that technologically minded, really. I'm probably a bit of a strange phenomenon, really. But
we've got a star on the show tonight, Jason. Do you know the star?
I can see your face then when he said quiz show, so just shush.
The star of the You Are the Weakest Link is with us this evening.
I don't look like I've had a bit of taxidermy done. Don't you start that. But I was thinking to myself, in a few years' time, you're probably going to get criminals, police knocking on somebody's door and saying, "I think you did this, young man." I said, "No, I didn't, officer, honest." And then Alexa pipes up, "Yes, he did. I've got a recording." Can you imagine? Oh, they're always listening.
But technology is really evolving, isn't it? Let's go to you, Sue, a little bit, because I wanted to talk to you about recently. You don't have to go into too much information. Don't panic. I'm not pushing you. But recently, you've closed down one of your social medias and reopened it all over again, haven't you? Because of you thought somebody had hacked you as part of your account.
I did. I closed my Facebook account. I deleted my Facebook account and set up a new one with a new email address and everything, because I had what I thought was an odd message from a very long-standing friend. And I contacted this friend by another method, i.e. email, and got a reply back on Messenger that didn't really feel like it was from her. And then, which made me a bit uncomfortable. And then I got a really weird message from another very long-standing friend, weird message on Messenger. And I thought, I'm just going to cancel my account. So that was quite scary. I mean, I use Facebook and I use WhatsApp and I use Zoom, and you're right about the ads. But I don't think I don't think anyone's listening in, unless maybe you've got an Alexa, but I don't think if you're just using your phone. If you're searching for something, you know, if I'm on Google looking for example, a set of second-hand bunk beds, which I am at the moment. So if anybody's got anybody, then
contact me.
You can bet your bottom dollar that when I next go onto something, you're right, there are, especially Google connected, there are lots of ads for beds. Or
have you never had an experience of talking about something though and then seeing it on it? Have you never had that? See, I have it all the time.
No.
Especially on there are other
social media.
There, especially on Facebook, I get a lot of Facebook adverts on, and I just think, bloody hell, I was only talking about that yesterday, and now I've got an advert trying to get.
Have you actually mean talking or messaging?
No, talking over the mobile phone. If anybody else out there has had that experience where you've talked about something over technology,
I mean, that would be illegal. That would be illegal.
I'm not sure. No. Because technology is getting so big nowadays, Sue. Have we really got rules and legislations? Because sorry, Jason, when we go into a court of law now, a court of law will not stand by anything that's happened on Facebook or on social media, or they can't use that as evidence. So this is why it's really hard, because I watched an episode, Stacey Dooley, I absolutely love her, all the programs that she does, and she did an episode on stalking. And there was this guy that would constantly message this woman, and the police hands were tied when she contacted and said, what can you do about this? And the police's advice was to contact Facebook and to speak to Facebook and see if you could get the account closed. But how difficult is that? So basically, it's a free world on social media. There's nothing tying us down to anything.
I never talk over Facebook. I always text or something like that. So I don't know, maybe it is something that they pick up on when you're having a conversation.
Or like using FaceTime or something, Jason, do you mean?
Yeah, possibly. I mean, I never talk to my phone and get that to send a message via Facebook or anything like that. If I want to do it, I type it by hand. So I've never experienced what Nick's talking about.
I did have a bit of a weird experience the other day. I won't go into the background of why I was ringing this doorbell, but I rang the doorbell of someone that I don't know, and I spoke to them through their doorbell.
Oh, I hate it.
That was really weird.
I hate it. We've even got that now. We've even got, like, we're glued to technology when we leave our homes now. Do you know what I mean? Like a doorbell can connect to your mobile phone. I don't want that.
Well, I think for some people that might be quite a good idea. You know, if you're vulnerable, you know, you don't want to be opening your door to everybody, then, you know, I think something like that. It's only like having an entry system on a block of flats, or, you know, where you can see somebody, or they've got to buzz up to your flat, you know, to say,
I know somebody who used to have a camera to look at what his dog was doing at home, and he used to speak through the camera on his phone to his dog at home.
What Rachel Penny doesn't know is I've got cameras locked to my phone from her house. So I watch her all day.
You wouldn't be talking to me if you had. Saying about you.
You won't be talking to me. Tell us what you think. Remember, you are the fifth panel member out there. Tell us what you think about modern day technology. Do you think it's exciting or scary? Do you think that we should have technology-free days? And do you think that we should always be glued to our devices? Do you think it's getting more and more nowadays, and actually that we should throw them to the side and have a technology-free day? Have your say. Remember, you're the fifth panel member out there. We move on and we move forward by talking about a subject that I get really annoyed about being in the news all the time. But drink driving seems to be on the increase, with only seeing a new story of this in this week's news. So I'm not saying at all that it's more acceptable at Christmas and New Year, but we're well into the new year now, actually, and we're well into a fresh start. And I don't understand why you would need to drink and then get behind a wheel at all. I don't understand it. But Rachel, do you think if you get caught drink driving just once, just one time caught drink driving, that your license should be taken off you for life?
No, I don't. But then if I was in the position where I'd had something happen to me or a loved one or somebody I knew that had been as hurt as a result of a drunk driver, I'd probably felt a lot differently than that. But an error of judgment, it doesn't make somebody a bad person, but it's a difficult subject, because it's not somebody doesn't go out and intend to do that, but once they've had a drink, they think to themselves, I'm invincible, nobody's going to catch me, I can do this, I can do that, I'm a careful driver. Once you've had a drink, you probably wouldn't have thought about doing that when you were sober. But as I say, they're not all bad people. But if it's a serial offender, then that is bad. And but then again, you wouldn't be a serial offender if you'd had your license taken off you at the first time. I'm such a fence sitter at things like this. I really am.
Do you agree? Do you guys agree with Rachel? Do you think that if you caught once drink driving, that do you believe that your license should be taken off you for good, or do you agree with Rachel? Do you think everybody deserves a second chance? Let's go to you, Sue.
Well, I think it should be taken off you for a period of time, but not for life. I think is it a year now? I don't know. I don't even know what the penalty is for drink driving.
No, I think it's a year. I think it's a year.
You know, and if it's an immediate no argument, you know, you're banned for a year from driving. I would think that would be enough of an inconvenience to most people. I'm talking about most people. I think that would probably be enough of an inconvenience to make them think very hard about ever again having a drink and getting behind the wheel of a car. But there will be people for whom, you know, that isn't enough of a deterrent, I imagine.
Go on, Rachel. What was you going to say before I jump in?
I was going to say it is more of an inconvenience for some people, because you can lose your job, and you know, you have dire consequences for more people than some. So that in itself is it would be a deterrent for a lot of people, and to ever do it again.
And your opinion, Jason?
Oh, I will never ever have a drink, anything, if I am driving. It's always a soft drink. I just won't take the risk. At all.
Would you take somebody's license off them for good, for first time drink driving?
I think this is hard, isn't it? Because some people have drunk drive for all their life, more of an older generation where they never used to be so much of a problem, and then other people have done it once, got caught, and the deterrent of a year has been enough to stop them, because they've lost the job and it's had dire consequences. I'm not sure a year is long enough. And then, of course, if you actually hit somebody and killed them, and it was a year's ban for that, is that enough? Is that enough to
No,
deter anybody?
sorry, Jason. No, I didn't mean if they'd done something like that as a result of being drunk inside a car. I meant if they'd been stopped and breathalyzed for whatever, hitting the curb or, driving without the lights on, and often that's a prompt for police to stop people who've been drinking. But if they'd caused an accident, then it would have to be along. I'm just talking about you've been pulled up for a driving offence, whatever that is, going through a red light or wobbling round a roundabout or something weird. So the police have seen you, pulled you up on the suspicion that you've been drink driving, then that for me would be a year's ban. But if they'd been involved in an accident where people had been hurt, then it would be longer. Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree.
Pulled up 3 times in 2 weeks. I used to work behind the bar as a barman, and I was pulled up because I'd left late from a public house, and the police followed me, pulled me over, and asked me to get out. And they said, "Have you had a good night?" And I said, "Well, not too bad." And they said, "I had a fun evening." I said, "Not really." I said, "Wrong side of the bar." And they breathalyzed me, and there was nothing on me, but they could smell alcohol on my clothes where
Yes.
I'd been working.
Yeah.
And they pulled me up 3 times in 2 weeks for
Wow.
leaving the same venue, and each time it was completely clear. But because I'd left at that time, they could smell alcohol on my clothes where I'd been working. They thought I'd been drinking.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I agree about someone might get pulled up for drink driving and convicted of drink driving. As you say, they may have been doing it for years, and that's the first time they've been pulled up. And I mean, I'm of the generation that you mentioned that, there wasn't drink driving when I was, and not that people didn't drink and drive, there wasn't punishment for drink driving. It wasn't, as strict then as it is now. And when I think about some of I mean, I hadn't learned to drive. I didn't learn to drive till after I was married, but my boyfriends at the time, the number of times that they got behind a wheel when they were definitely under the influence.
Well, you won't be surprised, but I disagree with all 3 of you. I would. First time that you've been stopped drink driving, I would take the license off for life, because by the end of the day, you have a choice when you walk into a pub. And I know that we are in an era at the moment where we are surrounded by alcohol, and there's sayings like wine o'clock and gin o'clock, and I've had a long day, I want a glass of wine and stuff like that. When you finish work and you want to drink and you've got a car, go home, invite friends round, have a bit of a party at home. But if you walk into a pub, you have a choice. You have a choice to drink or not to drink, and you are held responsible for that. So if you are even thinking about taking alcohol while your car's parked in the car park, and I sound awful saying this, but I hope you do get caught, and I do believe that it should be taken off you for life. Because the thing is, it's increasing. Drink driving deaths are on the increase all the time, and we're very, very lucky that our police, like Jason just said, are on it, are looking at people and are straight on it before that accident happens. But I just think to myself, how are we going to slow this down? How are we going to stop it? How are we going to make people think twice? And maybe it's time to say, you're caught once, that's it, you can never drive again, because it was your choice to get behind that wheel, it was your choice to have a drink, and it was your choice to do it. Because the thing is, if not, deaths are just going to rise. Innocent people are dying that are following and are dead, that are following the highway code, that are following every single rule, and then end up being, and that poor family, there must be families out there that's watching right now that has been affected by a drink drive story. And I just think it's not fair. I think a licence should be taken off somebody.
That goes for everything, though, Nick. That goes for every crime that you can think about. That life doesn't always mean life, does it? Even for the most heinous crimes. But the thing is, you're not a driver, and so you don't have the same kind of. It's not a case of every human being knows what's right and what's wrong, and every human being has a choice. Yes, you're right there. But the thing is, when you have driven all your life, I have never drunk and driven ever. I don't drink a great deal anyway. I'll probably have the odd one at Christmas, but I still wouldn't get in a car. And yes, people do have a choice, but like I was saying, there is errors of judgment, and like say life, a life ban, you're gonna. It's very difficult because. You do see a lot in the news about people being killed or on the roads, and because of drink drivers, there should be more stringent and more the time should fit the crime, like in any crime that's committed. I do think a year is not long enough. I think possibly it has to be a lot longer than that, and the fines ought to be a lot more than that. But they're not. Not everyone is a bad person. You can make an error of judgment, like.
But you're excusing drink driving there, Rachel.
I'm not excusing it at all. I'm not excusing drink driving at all. I think the crime they should pay for what they've done, but I would feel a lot differently. I'm positive I should feel a lot differently if it was somebody that I knew and I had experience with somebody had hurt somebody of mine. But I'm a driver. I know how important that could be.
But as a driver, would you feel safer knowing that every drink driver is taken off the road? What if you ended up in an accident because of a drink driver? What if your car was all smashed up because of a drink driver? Would you be so, I'll give that person a year?
No. They're not going to catch every drink driver. They're not going to stop every drink driver.
But how do we change stuff, Sue? Because what the system at the moment is not working. The system at the moment is not working because they're banned for it. And I'm not saying everybody's a repeat criminal, but there are people out there that have the ban and then do exactly the same all over again, and they risk it and they risk it and they risk it.
Well,
So what do we do about those people that are constantly taking the risk of going behind a wheel and drinking?
They're going to be banned from driving anyway, and the real criminals out there, they don't care whether they've been banned or not. They'll still get in the car. The thing is, when you pass your test as a competent driver. You get your license and you get in the car by yourself, and like on motorbikes or any, and it's a weapon. It can be a weapon. You can use it as a weapon. It's a lethal thing that you're actually driving, so you are responsible. But there are some idiotic drivers out there that look like they're on drink or drugs. You know, there's so many crimes that can be committed when you're driving a car. But I'm not saying it. I'm not endorsing the fact that you can drink and then pay a fine and then get back into a car. No, it is wrong, drink driving. But the fines and the maybe custodial sentence.
Do you think more needs to be done though? So let's take it a little bit more personal, Rachel. It's your son or your daughter or your
Precisely,
grandson.
I said I feel differently.
Exactly. And you were told, hold on.
Yeah,
you did. And you were told that it's just a year's ban. You were told that this person has maybe paralysed one of your family members and all they're getting is a year's ban. That's it. They can get behind a wheel after a year again. How would you feel?
Is that right? If they've committed, if they just drink drive and they've just been pulled up and they haven't done anything, they haven't been in an accident or anything like that, it's a year's ban, isn't it? If they've committed a crime or they've hurt somebody, surely that is a little bit different and they're treated a little bit more differently than just a year's ban.
But how would you feel if you were told eventually that person's allowed behind a wheel again? How would you feel if knowing that your family member suffers for life, but that person eventually is allowed behind a wheel again? We've got to put it in a perspective where it affects our own lives.
You can't even ask me that, because if it was one of mine, I wouldn't just want them to be off the road. I would want to harm them myself. But you know, but the thing is, there's too many people out there, Nick. Too many people that are doing this. So the fine and the sentence, there should be probably a custodial sentence that would stop people. You know, to have your liberty taken away from you is usually enough for anybody to have second thoughts on doing it. But it's going to be something, you can't lock everybody up. You can't take everybody off the road, because that would even lead into, if they lost their jobs. It's got to be, it's very, very tricky, but it's not something that I'd say, yes, I would. I'm not being flippant, and I'm not saying it's an easy thing to talk about, because it isn't. But if it was one of mine, I'd probably think a lot differently. But I haven't, luckily enough, I haven't had that experience. And I feel so much sympathy for anybody who has.
Sue, what was you going to say?
I was going to say, it sounds as though you're saying if someone has badly hurt, or hurt, full stop. Because I mean, you got clipped by a car, didn't you?
Yeah, and that wasn't even drink driving.
No, exactly. But you know, would you expect her to be punished in some way?
No, because she didn't have alcohol in her system.
No, but she still hit you because she wasn't paying attention.
How do you know, Nick?
How do you know?
Well,
Still what breathalyzer?
You know, I'm not condoning it. You know, and I'm ashamed of when I think about, like I said before, I'm ashamed when I think about some of the states that my boyfriends used to drive in. Yeah, I am ashamed. There's no other way of saying it. But there has to be a scale of sentencing, if you like. So to be stopped, like Jason was, had he had half a pint or 2 pints, or I don't even know what the minimum is now, because I don't drink and drive. But you know, if Jason had been over the limit when he got stopped, but actually all he'd driven, but just been pulled up because they'd seen him leaving the pub basically late at night, then you know, a year's ban to me is sufficient, and hopefully would be enough of a deterrent. But
do you think if somebody hurts somebody, then let's change that?
Definitely.
Do you think the license should be taken off for life?
Yes, I do.
If somebody hurts somebody?
Yeah, I do. I do. But I can see the point that you're making, because it would only be by pure chance that person who got pulled up for drink driving but hadn't done anything else. Do you see what I mean? They could have gone a further 2 miles down the road and mown somebody down, you know. So it's a really tricky one. And I think in France now, you have to have 2 breathalyzers in your car. And if you've been somewhere, you know, at a social event, and you've had a glass of wine or a couple of drinks, you have to take a breathalyzer, and it has
that sounds good.
I'm sure that it's the case in France now. You have to have.
We've woken Jason up now. I thought he'd fallen asleep for a second. We've just woken him up.
I was just looking through on my phone the seriousness of offences and how much you get for certain things. But no, I know that one of the things that's spoken about the motor industry is actually placing breathalyzers in new build cars.
Yes.
So
Definitely. That leads me on to the second question, Jason. Let me bring it to you then. Do you think all motors in every car should have a device or something? We just previously talked about the world of technology and evolving, that if somebody's driving a little bit abnormal, that it's linked to a station with their registration, everything? Or do you think that's too much of an invasive in privacy?
No, I think what they should do is link it to a car. So when you get in, you do your breathalyzer. If you're over the limit, the car just won't start.
Yeah.
That's very clever.
It won't start till you've done it. It won't start till you've done it. And once you've done it, if you're over the limit, it won't start.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you think that's not too much of Rachel, let's go to you. Do you think that's not too much of an invasive of privacy? Do you think people would say, actually, that's an invasion of my privacy, that we start linking cars? Or do you think that's the way forward to stop drink driving?
Oh, definitely. It sounds like a real cracking idea. That does. Really good idea. But yeah, that would work. That would definitely work.
It's just scary, isn't it? Because I feel I've never been affected by, thanks the Lord, by a drink driver. But I just think that the reason I'm trying to personalise it a little bit more to your lives is because people out there watching may have been affected by drink driving and may have just been told that this driver has got this limited time of not being behind the wheel, and eventually they can be back behind a wheel again. On our project that we're built on, Loose Women, as there's a panelist on there that is bound to a wheelchair because of an accident, because of what happened in a car accident. And I just think we're taking a risk but it's the risk of life, isn't it? We're taking a risk every time we jump into a car, or every time we're a passenger in a car, or whatever. We're taking that risk. But I just think that the reason I feel so passionate about it is because I'm sick to death of hearing drink driving stories in the news and in the newspaper. Every time you watch police inspectors, or whatever they're called, police programmes, most of the crimes that you watch are driving. And I just think the whole show's nearly taken up by driving, bad driving, drink driving, crazy driving. And how do we stop that? Because what I'm saying at the moment is the system that we've got at the moment is clearly not working.
Can I just say something? There's one thing, like Sue was saying, that you've got the drink drivers that are error of judgment, that get in the car and are stopped and breathalyzed and found that they haven't done anything wrong except getting in the car under the influence. They haven't caused an accident. So then they've taken their license off them for a year and fined. Okay, those are the ones that possibly should be sent to somewhere and shown a video of what could have happened, shown the carnage that possibly they could have been responsible for. If they were to witness something like that on a screen firsthand, they would think twice about ever touching a drop of alcohol, let alone getting in a car after having a drink, because but the ones that wouldn't, they're the ones that would probably cause the problems in the future, and future driving, and cause carnage, and they should have their license taken away for life, definitely.
So we have a loose night out, right? I'm going to plant a picture in your head. We have a loose night out, and we've all gone to the pub, and we're all having a drink, and we're all enjoying ourselves and stuff like that. Let me go round the panel. We come out of the pub, and we see somebody that we've seen up and down to the bar all night, drinking alcohol, sharing alcohol with their friends, laughing and joking, and we see them put their key into a car door, intoxicated. Rachel, would you confront somebody before they got in a car, or would you just ring ring the authorities straight away, or would you go over and say, excuse me, what the hell do you think you're doing?
I'd say I don't think you're going to be driving tonight, are you? Because I've seen you having a drink. And if they refuse to, then I'd definitely call the police, but I'd give them a chance first. I'd watch them, make sure that they didn't get in the car. In fact, I'd probably take the keys off them if I could. But you're just as responsible for whatever happened afterwards as if you didn't say anything.
What about you, Sue? Would you confront somebody?
Yeah, I agree with Rachel. I think I would say something. I would say something like, do you want me to get you a taxi? Or, you know, have you got far to go? I don't think you should be driving tonight. But I'd have to be pretty sure that they hadn't been drinking alcohol-free beer all night.
Hmm.
You know, they'd have to be obviously drunk, I think. Well, you know, I would have to know that they'd been drinking alcohol that night, because you don't actually always know, do you?
What about you, Jason? Would you confront somebody?
I have confronted somebody.
Oh, we've actually got a story.
Well, it was just a friend who had been drinking throughout the night, and they picked the car keys up to leave, and I just put my hands on their car keys and said, "I don't think you're drinking. I don't think you're driving tonight, are you?" And they looked at me and they said, "Why?" I said, "Because you've been drinking throughout the night." And I said, "You cannot drive." I said, "So put the keys down and get yourself a taxi." And they did. And then working behind the bar, I saw somebody get into a car who had been drinking all night, and I rang the authorities straight away and gave them the car make and registration.
Oh, well done you. Well
Have you
done
ever,
you.
Jason, can I ask you, have you ever refused to serve anybody any more alcohol?
Yes.
Have you?
Yeah.
That must be really hard.
Oh, it is. It's the worst thing you can do. But you normally you get the verbal abuse, you get the abuse from people. It depends on where you work, really. I've worked in a public house and I've worked in a conservative club. And when you refuse to serve in a conservative club, they're normally quite polite. In the public house, it's normally like, you can't tell me what to do. And I go, no, I can't, but I can tell you to walk out that door because I'm not serving you anymore.
Don't turn around now.
Yeah.
That's why I do it.
You can take yourself out of the pub because you're not served behind the bar.
Tell us what you guys think. Do you think I'm the Grinch of the panel and actually the licence shouldn't be taken off you for life for drink driving? Or do you agree with people that disagree with me and actually that they should look at it a little bit differently? Do you think devices should be in cars to stop drink driving, and do you think motorists should come to an automatic stop if they suspect you have drink in your system? So now I'm changing the show a little bit. Good evening, dragons, as we welcome Rachel Penny, the grandma of the dragon. We welcome Sue Humphrey, the great grandma of the dragon. We welcome Jason as the granddad of the dragon as we talk about the Dragon Show. So it was the most watched episode in Dragon's Den. I'm not a huge fan of Dragon's Den, but it made history and it made news, so let's talk about it. It was the most watched episode in Dragon Den history when Isabel Thorpe won over the Dragon Den's panel with her natural weight loss formula. Never before had the judging panel on Dragon's Den decide to each invest £1 million into a potential company. After buying Strategy 25% shared in Isabel's company, the Dragon's Den panel have personally monitored the 39-year-old mum, helping her undergo and branding and repackaging of the Miracle Weight Loss project. Jason, do you think this is more targeted than ever, weight loss? And do you believe it's causing more bad than it is good?
oh, this is difficult, isn't it? Because if you invest £1 million into a company, you're going to want something back in return that's going to make it look good. So they are going to say, we'll invest the 1 million. You see on the TV, they're all investing this 25% and £1 million. But there's going to be catches with that.
But do you think it's just an industry that's always picked on? Like when we talked about social media earlier, social media is a big influence of weight nowadays, isn't it? We have weight loss programs, we have weight loss pills, we have weight loss. And do you think that it's just an industry that is constantly now something more to make money than to help people? Because I just feel like we're all really self-conscious about our weight nowadays. I am one included. Can I just say I am a massive weight person? But I just think, is it because we're constantly hearing about it, we're constantly told about weight loss and what size and size 0 and all of that? Do you think it's an industry that's weighed upon quite a lot?
I think we are all part of the problem, aren't we, of weight and issues of weight. I mean, if we go from our lifestyle, we know that in the LGBT community, it's a major issue. And everybody talks about being skinny or toned, or people want people toned or muscular or thin, or they don't like bears or chubbies. That's what we get called. I mean, I need to lose some weight. I know I do. But I don't like it when a doctor says to me, I recently went to a doctor's and she said, I haven't seen you for 2 years. She said, you put some weight on. And I said, no, I've not seen you for 2 years and you got older. Because I cannot be a boy and I cannot be criticized when she was quite big as well. And she just said, I haven't seen you for 2 years. You put some weight on. I went, you too, when you've got older as well. But yeah, we are bombarded by images, aren't we?
Do you think also, though, Rachel, do you think that whenever we go to the doctors nowadays, that we're tested for something, that the doctor always says, please, can you get off the scales? Please, can you? Do you think there should be some sort of, for people with real weight trouble, like if I'm asked to go on the scales, I don't own scales in my house. Can I say that? I don't own scales in my house anymore. I go by the waist of my jeans, and I've been in a size 30 jean now since about 18, but that's not always been easy. It's been a really difficult program where I've binged a lot. Even if you look back on Loose Lincoln episodes, in lockdown I got kind of big and I needed to lose that weight and come back down again. But do you think, Rachel, if there was a card to say, please don't ask me to be weighed unless it's medically necessary, do you think that would help a lot of people speak out a lot more?
Well, weight, medically wise, when you go to the doctors, they ask usually about your weight because of medication, and a lot of medication has to be because of what size you are, and so you don't overdose. But there's 63% of people in the UK, the population in the UK, are obese and overweight. That is a hell of a lot of money. 6.1 billion, I think they were saying, that's spent on health-related, just because you're obese and it's your weight, diseases, and it's a big thing, and it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's going to, so when the doctor asks you to go on the scales, then it's for a reason. There is a reason behind it. But I do think we've all got to take responsibility for ourselves, and if being overweight and you are happy being overweight and it's not causing you any problems, then if you're happy with that, then it's your own body, your own. But I come from a family that has had bad health, and so I wouldn't make it worse and exacerbate it by making myself too overweight. I've got a bit of a pouch going on down there as well. Anyway, bit of like a food baby going on most days, but I you just have to look after yourself. You have to be sensible and not diet as such, but healthy living, healthy lifestyle. Bit of
So have you
exercise.
ever been triggered by weight? Have you ever been triggered by weight and size? Do you ever feel like you're tied down to the scales, or do you think, like, I'm very jealous of my best friend, really, because my best friend will just go through life not caring if he puts on 2 stone or loses 2 stone. But it's like we're polar opposites in that direction, because I'm constantly thinking of weight. Do you think you're in the middle, or do you think, have you ever been triggered by weight?
Well, I know your best friend, and you have to remember that your best friend is physically on the go from morning.
Yeah.
So actually, that best friend isn't going to be bothered really about what they eat,
No.
because they know that they're going to, whatever they eat, they're going to work it off the next day. Personally speaking, I am overweight. I know that. I've got arthritis. I know that if I lost weight, my bones probably wouldn't ache as much. And I've definitely been a seesaw weight person, especially when I was younger. But I will say, there's a couple of things I wanted to say. One is, when I was the skinniest I have ever been, okay, when you could see all my ribs here, you know, and my pelvic bones stuck out because I was really skinny, and I was really skinny, I was still over 9 stone.
Right.
And I was really skinny.
And it's really
I
hard
hadn't got
because
extra fat on. It was just because I'm the frame that I am. You know,
well, it's hard, isn't it? Because the thing is, I dread it. I absolutely dread it, because I dread hearing, like, they'll go, "Oh, can I test your BMI?" And I go, yeah, that's fine. And I go, "Don't tell me the result," because I think I would just obsess by it.
Yeah, well, you would, but I think that's your personality.
Yeah.
I don't obsess about it. I try to eat healthily, but I know my downfall is, I will say to myself, I've had a stressful day, or I've been really good all week, or I think I'll treat myself to fish and chips.
Yeah.
That isn't a healthy attitude to food, actually. And I know that, having something, in inverted commas, naughty as a reward for whatever, stressful day, been working like crazy, been good all week, whatever, that's not a good attitude to food.
No.
The other thing I wanted to say, though, was it's really interesting that they were prepared to put that much money into that business, because that, to me, says absolutely there's money to be made here. Just like Jason was saying, if you're investing £1 million in a business, you're expecting big money back.
Yeah.
Probably. So that actually is says it all for me. And the other thing I wanted to say was, everybody, talks about Weight Watchers, and I've been on Weight Watchers, and actually I found Weight Watchers quite helpful when I did it. But it's owned by Heinz.
Oh, I didn't know that.
There you go. Well, it used
there are
to
other weight companies available.
But it's owned by a big conglomerate food company.
Wow. Ladies and gents, I was going to carry on with a few questions, but we've come to the end of the show. That hour goes really, really fast, doesn't it? Just a bit of an info for next week, really. We are calling it Loose Comeback in the World of Love, as we repeat our Valentine's special of Loose Links last year. So we share that show with you all over again. We will be back up and running the week after, but join us for the week of love as we talk about lots of love topics, relationships and romance. So join us as we have our loose comeback next Tuesday at 9 o'clock. Don't miss out. So can you thank my panel for this evening again? I think I'm just stuck to this name, but again, thank you very much, Rachel Penny. The queen of Loose Links herself, that's Sue Humphrey. And the granddad that nearly fell asleep halfway through the show is Jason Lambert. Join us next week for our Loose Comeback, and the week after for the latest instalment of Loose Links. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you very soon. Take care, don't drink and drive, and enjoy the rest of your week. See you soon. Bye bye.